Gabby, you were thinking we were going to have one or two more people, right?
Yeah, there was 8 signed up, but if they get in there late, they should just be able to join without being in the waiting room.
Okay. We'll just wait one more minute and then I'll get started. Okay, welcome everyone to the Information Technology Careers Information Session for March 2021. So thank you so much for joining with us today. I know that it would be great if we could be on campus. One of my favorite things to do is to give tours of our IT spaces on campus because the spaces that we have really are phenomenal places to learn about information technology. But we're still in a remote environment, in a remote world. So I put together some pictures and things, and hopefully we'll give you some kind of sense as to what our on-campus facilities look like, as well as what we can do for remote education. So let me just introduce myself first. So my name is Dr. Ben Franske, and I am one of the professors of information technology career program classes at Inver Hills. I have been working at Inver Hills for about 11 years now and have loved every minute of it. My background is that I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin Stout, actually in information technology management, and then a couple of graduate degrees from the University of Minnesota in technology education. So in our industry, in the IT industry, certifications are a big thing. So I've got some of the certifications that I have up on this slide as well, if you're interested in that. We'll talk a little bit more about certifications as we get further into kind of what degrees that we have and what kinds of courses that we have in our degrees at Inver Hills. I've also got my contact information on this slide, both my phone number and my email address. Now, if you don't catch them, we'll have another slide at the end where I have them again. And of course, my information is on the Inver Hills website as well, if you look up the IT degree programs there too. So in order to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about IT careers, kind of the way that most IT departments are organized in companies traditionally is that there's kind of two different sides to the IT department. And this comes into play because this kind of also fits in with the types of different degrees we have for IT at Inver Hills and how those go together. So within this broad area of IT careers, kind of there's two main areas. Over here on the left, we have software and development work. And on the right, we have infrastructure work. So let's talk about the software development side first. This is oftentimes what people think about first, perhaps when they're thinking about a career in IT, is you're thinking about doing some programming, right? Writing the next app. And becoming a multimillionaire perhaps in the process. That is in this software development side, but there's a lot more to software development than that. Most mid-size and larger companies employ in-house software developers. They can do everything from creating the web pages that the company is using to application development for mobile applications or traditional desktop applications. Even in a company that's not an IT-focused company, in other words, where their product is not something that is IT related. They use a lot of internal software for ordering and tracking and production, finance, etc. And in the business environment, most people are not just using off the shelf products for those things. What they do is they get products that they have the ability to customize for their particular environment. So while the same like finance program might get sold to General Mills and to Target, they're obviously using it in very different ways. So they hire software developers to customize that software for their particular business needs. Now, within the software development area, there's kind of two paths that people might choose to follow. The first is computer science. Now, this is usually what people have heard about when they think about IT education is computer science. Um, Computer science is kind of really more an area of mathematics. It's an applied mathematics area. And so if you hear about people who are doing artificial intelligence work or things like that, they're oftentimes people who have a strong computer science background. So computer science is involved in some ways in programming, but it is at a very deep level looking at like what the most efficient way for computers to do a particular task is, and then designing those kind of algorithms that are then going to be implemented in lots of different programs. The other path that people can follow in the software development world is to go down this computer programming route. Now, the computer programming route is a little less math heavy and a little more focused on understanding and knowing how various computer programming languages work and how to write software with those programming languages. So, software engineering is another term for this kind of area, or software design, those kinds of things, software architect, all those sorts of things. Whereas computer science is kind of, in a pure sense, is this more mathematical relationship with how computers work. And how to make them as efficient as possible. So that's kind of how the software and development side of IT is organized. But also within most companies, you have another group of people who kind of work on this, what we call the infrastructure side. So these are for roles like a network administrator or a server administrator, your help desk and support specialist people who can give you additional uh, support when you have a problem with your system, and then people who are working in the security side. Now, there is some aspect of security that is related to the software development phase of work as well, or area of work, in that it's important that we write software that is secure. But most people who have security as part of their job portfolio specifically are probably more on the infrastructure side. They're responsible for setting up firewalls and defenses against hackers who are trying to break in, and maintaining those types of systems. So broadly, that's how IT careers are organized. Okay. Now I'm going to show you kind of how our degrees fit into that, and then I'll take a few questions if people have questions about that as well. So we've kind of organized our degrees in the same way that you will run into these things in a workplace. So we have a couple of degrees that are in the software and development space, and then a couple of degrees that are in the infrastructure space. So first of all, on the software and in development space, we have kind of two primary degrees. We have a computer science AS degree, that's an Associates of Science degree. And we have a computer programmer Associate of Applied Science degree, or AAS degree. Now, these fall into kind of those same two different areas we were talking about before in the workplace, for people who want to work in software and development work. The computer science degree is more math focused. You do learn programming in a computer science degree, but it's not really the primary emphasis. Understanding how the computer executes the program, and the mathematical structures that underlie how we store data, how we sort data, those kinds of things are more of the focus of computer science. Okay. Also, that's an Associate of Science degree. Now, we'll talk in just a second about the different types of two-year degrees that are available. But an Associate of Science degree is one that's a little more geared towards transfer to a four-year institution. So if you want to go on to a four-year program in computer science or computer programming or software engineering, something like that, this might be the degree that you're looking for. We also in our, here we go. We also have our computer science degree is part of the Minnesota State Transfer Pathway Program. So that basically means that if you're going to go to a four-year school in the Minnesota State College and University system, you can get guaranteed transfer of that degree. We've actually been careful about designing our computer science degree so you can transfer to a wide variety of other schools as well. But that's kind of an official thing that you can look for. The computer programmer degree is an AAS degree. Now, an AAS degree has more technical content in it and a little less liberal arts content. And in this case, because it's a computer programming degree, we also have modified it so it focuses more on learning a couple of different languages, learning the programming languages in more depth. So it's a good idea to kind of review, for those who are less familiar with them, what kinds of degrees are out there in the two-year space. So if you're looking at community and technical colleges, these are the kinds of degrees that you're likely to encounter. First of all, there's the Associate of Arts degree, or the AA degree. So my computer wants to just jump ahead on me here. So the AA degree, or the Associate of Arts degree, you won't see that in our department at all. That's a general degree that's available at the community college level. It has a liberal arts and general education focus. So most of the classes you take are geared to be liberal arts classes, which will fulfill the liberal arts requirement of a four-year degree. Okay. We do at Inver Hills have a couple of AA degrees that have emphasis areas. We don't in the IT area, but you can do an emphasis area where basically it is pre-selecting certain electives for you that will give you a little more background in one area. But it's just a few classes. Okay. And these are really designed to be transfer degrees. They're designed to get you into a four-year school and to have all of those credits transfer in as general education credits. And then anything specific to a career you're pursuing would be done in those second 2 years, which you would do at another college. Then the Associate of Science degree, or the AS degree, is a little bit different. So instead of being pretty much all liberal arts focused, it's divided roughly equally. So there's 30 core credits in these degrees, where you have a concentration or technical or scientific coursework that is related to a particular field where you are interested in. And then the other half of the degree, so another 30 credits, is those liberal arts credits. So this is designed primarily to transfer into a Bachelor of Science four-year degree program. And you'll have some of your degree area courses done and some of your liberal arts courses for those degrees done. You can sometimes go directly into an employment situation with an Associate of Science degree, but it is not designed specifically with that in mind. I would say that it's primarily for transfer, but with a little more emphasis in a particular area than what an Associate of Arts degree is. And then the third type of degree that we've already encountered when we talked about those software development degrees is the Associate of Applied Science. Now, this degree has a very strong concentration or technical or scientific coursework area. In fact, of the 60 credits that are in the Associate of Applied Science degree, 44 of them are going to be technical courses that are core to the area that you are studying. And then just 16 of them are going to be liberal arts credits. So if you're someone who knows very specifically this is what you want to do and you want to take as many courses in this particular area, the AAS is a good degree option for you. Traditionally, the AAS is designed to get you ready for immediate employment. So you would graduate with your AAS degree and go on directly to immediate employment. And our AAS degrees are designed to do that. However, a little bit unique and something you may not have heard from other people is that in the IT area specifically, the AAS degree is not a barrier to transferring those credits to a four-year college. We have a number of four-year colleges that we work with on a regular basis who will take all of the credits from our IT AAS degrees at Inver Hills. So if you're interested in going on and finishing a four-year degree, you can do that. You can do that immediately after you finish your AAS degree, or you can go out and work for a few years and maybe try to find an employer who has a reimbursement program for four-year degrees and will reimburse you for classes that you can take to finish that four-year degree. And we have a number of different schools we work with on a regular basis, as well as a lot more that have said they will take our credits, but where we don't regularly have students transfer. And those include institutions all over the country and really all over the world. We'll talk about kind of how some of that works in a little bit. Okay, so those are some of the different types of two-year degrees. So you'll see we've got both an AS and an AAS on that software development side. On the infrastructure side of our degrees, we have two degrees that we offer. Those are the IT support specialist AAS degree and the network technology and security AAS degree. And these are kind of depending on what your existing level of comfort is with computer infrastructure. If you're very new to it and you really want to start a little bit more slowly and get your feet wet slowly, that's what the IT support specialist is for. The network technology and security is a degree that we are kind of known nationally for. It's a very aggressive degree, meaning that we jump right in with fairly technical things pretty quickly. So we still start from a point where really anyone can understand what's going on, but it moves very quickly into much more technical stuff. And so by the end of that network technology and security AAS degree, you are doing some technical courses that are the same types of technical courses that are done a lot of times at the end of a four-year degree or even into a graduate school degree, depending on the school that you're talking about. So those are the two options that we have on that infrastructure degree side. Okay, those IT support specialist and network technology and security. In addition, on the infrastructure side, we have a number of different certificates that we have available. So certificates are either things that are shorter, they're shorter than a degree. So they tend to be more like in the 13 to 16 credit range instead of a two-year degree, which is 60 credits. And those are sometimes introductory things. So like our IT help desk certificate, if your goal is just to get into an IT job as quickly as possible, that IT help desk certificate is maybe a good option. It's a relatively low number of credits. You can complete it in 1 or 2 semesters if you're taking classes full time. And it will give you the basic skills to go and get employed in this area. Maybe you already have a degree in something else, so you don't need a degree necessarily to qualify for employment, but it is an option to get you up to speed on kind of the basics of IT support work. The remaining 4 degree or certificates that we have on the infrastructure side are actually all more advanced things that we offer, which you can add on to like our network technology and security degree if you want to go deeper into security, particularly, or advanced networking. Or voice over IP phones, or Microsoft server and client administration. So those are things where in these second 4 certificates, you take some of the classes as part of the network technology and security degree, but then there's maybe between 1 and 3 more classes that you would do beyond that are more advanced, that you could use to earn some of those certificates. So those are some of the classes that we have. So before, some of the degrees that we have. Before we go on and start to kind of show you how those degrees are organized and what kinds of classes there are in them, is there anyone who has questions that they want to ask about how IT careers are organized broadly, or how our degrees are organized at Inver Hills? You can either unmute yourself and talk to us, or you can stick those questions in the chat window. Go ahead, Austin. I'm assuming you're typing that in. While you type that in, Austin, I'm going to go to my next slide where we kind of show some of the classes in the computer science degree, because that might potentially help answer your question as well, and computer programming degree. So I'll just watch the chat, and once your question shows up there, I'll go ahead and answer that for you. So this slide is showing us kind of a sampling of some of the technical courses that would fall into our computer science degree. Remember, that's an associate of science, or our computer programming degree, that's an associate of applied science. So computer science would include things like introduction to PC hardware and software. You'll see that as common across all of our degrees, as well as a little bit of programming with a computer science 1 class where you learn Java programming language and the C++ programming language. And then we dive into computer architecture, which is fundamentally how computers work at a very low level. And then, as I said, being the computer science is a little bit more of a math area. It's kind of an area of math, applied math. We talk about algorithms and data structures and discrete structures, which basically involve how we store and organize information. So Austin's question is how well computer science degrees at Inver Hills will transfer with other universities that are out of the state, and any Inver Hills computer science students that have successfully transferred out of Minnesota institutions. That's a good question. I work a little bit less frequently with computer science students, although occasionally, than I do with the infrastructure students. So I am not aware of specific cases where that is true. And when we designed the computer science program, we looked, or I was the last person who worked on it. I looked pretty closely at what schools across the upper Midwest would require for computer science. However, That said, I was pretty thorough about it. So our computer science degree has actually a lot of flexibility in it. In fact, the courses that you see listed here are the only courses that are the technical courses in the computer science degree. Beyond that, the rest of the degree, there's a computer science elective area, and there's the liberal arts area. The computer science elective area also allows you to choose anything from the advanced math courses as well, because some colleges require more advanced math courses to transfer into their computer science program, like Calculus 2 and beyond, perhaps. So what I can say is that our computer science program is designed to be very flexible. So if you know a particular school that you want to transfer to, or you know an area where you want to transfer and you can look at a few degrees, by the time you get into your second year of courses at Inver Hills, you can pick courses that specifically will transfer to that school. So we tried to make that as flexible as possible. Now, if you want to do that, we'd really encourage you to work with someone in the counseling and advising office, and ideally to be talking to an admissions person at the college where you want to transfer about which particular classes will transfer. But we're definitely focused on making transfer work for people in the computer science. So that's the best answer that I can give to your question is yes, we definitely have had people transfer out of Minnesota, but most of the ones that I know of kind of off the top of my head have been other schools in the upper Midwest, especially Wisconsin, because Minnesota students pay in-state tuition in Wisconsin. So there's a lot of transfer to Wisconsin. If you're looking beyond that, I can confidently say you would be able to work. If you knew what their requirements for their degree were, you could complete a computer science degree at Inver Hills and get those credits to transfer. But I don't have a specific example of that. So hopefully that can answer that for you. Great question. Anyone else, as we're going, also certainly feel free to stick a question in the chat and I'll answer those as we go. So the computer programming side, you'll see a lot of the courses are the same as computer science. However, because that's an AAS degree, there are more technical credits available to you. So it's more, there are a few extra classes like an advanced Java programming class, and the administering Linux servers class, and the Linux Essentials class, because a lot of people who are doing computer programming work actually end up doing a lot of that work on Linux systems. So it makes sense to know something about those. We also are going to be adding some new, so these are not all of the computer science courses that we have, and we're adding some new courses. We just brought on this year a new computer science faculty member who is focused just on computer science and computer programming classes. And so he has been working on adding additional languages to our repertoire. So I know that there's a class in Python that was approved this year. So that'll start being offered sometime next year, and some other languages and development work as well, like database development work and a few other things. So there are a few additional things happening there. If you were especially interested in computer science or computer programming and you want to send me an email, again, I'll have my email address up later on here, you can definitely do that and just say, I'm interested in getting connected with a computer science faculty member, and I'll put you in touch with John, who is our full-time computer science faculty member, and he'll be able to answer more specific questions about those areas for you. On the infrastructure side, I mentioned that we're a little bit unique in that we have fairly high transferability of our degrees, even though they are AAS degrees. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One big one is that we are part of what's called the Cisco Networking Academy program. So back in 1997, Cisco started this program that was to help schools who were kind of just building their own networks and IT systems, to have students help them build those systems, as well as to train. There was a huge need at the time for people who understood networking, and the internet was, exploding onto the scene. So Cisco started this programming, and Inver Hills was one of the first couple thousand schools to sign up. I think we were Academy number 1,000 something. So we came on board like in 1998. And as of last summer, there are almost 12,000 academies that exist around the world, in 180 different countries, and over 12.7 million students have gone through the Cisco Networking Academy program, and about 28,000 instructors are part of this. And you can see how those students are distributed all over the world in this graphic here. Now, the reason this comes into play is because the Cisco Networking Academy program uses not necessarily exactly the same curriculum at all of the schools, but there are certain core courses which almost all of these academies offer. And so the advantage of that is that if you take that one of those core courses with us at Inver Hills, other schools, even ones that we don't normally have transfer relationships with, will look at that and go, oh, you took this Cisco Networking Academy course. We know what's in that course. It matches right up with one of the ones we have, and we can transfer those credits over for you very easily. I know that's how it works because we have a lot of students who come to Inver Hills from other institutions. Sometimes you've done a Cisco Networking Academy course in high school, or at another college, and you can come to Inver Hills and we can easily give you credit for those courses. They're some of the easiest transfer credits that we have, just because we know what's in the curriculum for those core courses. So that's an interesting program, and it's a big part of why the degree is pretty transferable, where degrees in infrastructure are pretty transferable. So this is a list of some of the different kinds of courses that we have in our various infrastructure degrees. I divided them up on this slide into kind of there's two main areas of courses that our degrees have for technical courses on the infrastructure side. One is the networking and security area, and one is the operating systems and PC area. So you end up taking classes from both of these lists, but it was just an easy way to divide up the classes that we have. If you're in the IT support degree, you'll probably take a little bit more from the operating system side and a little less from the networking and security side. And if you're in the networking technology and security side, you take a little more from the networking and security side and a little less from the operating system side. But it's a pretty good mix of those. Now, in addition to those courses, we of course have liberal arts courses that you need to take, and then a few kind of general courses. Like everyone in our IT infrastructure degrees has to do an internship, where you do some paid work in the IT field. Everyone has to do a capstone course where you participate in a semester-long project related to IT. And everyone does a career skills course where we talk about everything from interviewing and getting IT jobs to how to balance your schedule once you get an IT job, between things like having to fix broken stuff and working on projects, and setting up new systems, those types of things. So there are a few additional courses as well, but this gives you some kind of idea of the sorts of things that you are likely to learn about in one of our infrastructure courses. Now, I've got some photos because everyone loves photos. So these are some views of the different labs and spaces that we have, ways that we have of teaching IT education at Inver Hills. So labs and equipment access is one of the strengths, I would say, that we have at Inver Hills. So we have 3 networking and server administration labs, which are set up something like this. Okay. These racks over here are what are in all 3 of those rooms. Basically, that same setup is in all 3 of those rooms. Um, and that's enough for 18 students, or in one room, 24 students, to work in pairs on networking and server uh, setups. Okay, so these are enterprise grade Cisco routers, switches, and security appliances. And that's typically what we do for our in-campus offering. So we've got wiring that goes from all these devices to out of the frame of the picture here. There's a bunch of desks over here with 2 computers on each one, so you can have a pair of partners working, and there's wiring that goes from all those devices out to those tables so that you can work on the devices. We do feel strongly in the IT area at Inver Hills that practical experience is really important. We want you to have experience with the same equipment that businesses use. It makes you a lot more comfortable with it when you get to the workplace. And if you're interested in doing some of the industry certifications, it is critical that you have real hands-on experience, and you're not just using simulators, and you're not using outdated equipment. So we do pride ourselves in keeping our equipment up to date on a regular basis. Now, this big part over here, we're going to talk about in a minute. That's all brand new equipment. We just put it in last semester. In fact, when I took this picture, we hadn't even wired up these last 3 racks yet, although they are set up now. In addition to our 3 networking and server administration labs, we have 1 lab that's dedicated to PC hardware, right? So everyone in all of our IT degrees takes a PC hardware and software course where you learn the basics of PC operation, PC repair, and how the components in the computer work together. So you'll see these are examples of students that we have taking apart and putting together PCs. That's something that people do in the 3rd week of class in our PC hardware and software class. So it's something that literally anybody can learn to do. I've taught people in our courses from school librarians all the way up to like diesel mechanics, former airline mechanics, and of course, just regular students, gamers who are interested in how systems work, and community members who take our classes who want to learn how to fix their own system. So we've got a PC hardware and software lab where we take apart computers and put them back together. This year, we've been doing it remotely, which is a little more challenging. So we've actually checked out equipment. We've sent PCs home with students and had them disassemble and reassemble them at home. I put together some detailed videos showing the whole process. And then we have myself and a tutor available in our department who can provide assistance by voice or video or email as well. So we've got 1 lab set up for that. Now we also have, this is kind of an exciting thing, is we were able to set up over the past year this set of equipment, okay, which is our remotely accessible lab equipment. So basically it is a server and networking lab that you can work on from home. You get to use the same real equipment that you would get to use on campus. You can do exactly the same labs, and everything works pretty much the same way, except you don't have to do the wiring because we've already got it wired for you. And we use this in a bunch of different classes, everything from our Linux system administration class all the way through the various networking and security classes. And we have a system where you can go in and you can make reservations to use the equipment, because obviously only one person can use a set of equipment at a time. That's why we have so many different sets of equipment, but it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from home. And you can go in and click on these different tabs and actually interact with the routers and switches just like you would in person. And if you click these tabs over here for PCs, you can click and download and point and install applications and work with some virtual PCs that are actually running on these servers over here, just like you would if you had a PC in front of you. So even if you're using a Mac or a Chromebook, you can have access to our stuff. Now, I bring this up because even once we get back on campus with our classes, this system is going to remain available. One of the consistent challenges that we've had, given that we have so much emphasis on our physical, practical experience in our classes, is that a lot of times students would want to come in and play with the equipment, work with the equipment outside of the class and lab times that we normally have. And you could do that, but obviously you needed to have time in your schedule and the college needed to be open. But that's no longer a problem. So now you can go in and work on the stuff whenever you want. If you want to play with routers and switches at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can go ahead and get yourself a reservation for that and go through and play to your heart's content with our routers and switches. So that's something that all of our IT students have access to as well. So that's something new that we've got set up. I want to mention just for a second a little bit about industry certification. So this is the second part of why our degrees in IT infrastructure in particular are so transferable to other schools. And it's because almost all of the courses, something like 90% of the courses, the technical courses in our degree, are aligned with an industry recognized certification. So if you've ever heard of things like the Cisco CCNA, which is the Cisco Certified Network Associate certification, or the CCNP, which is the next level up from that. It's the Cisco Certified Network Professional. Or perhaps some of the Microsoft certifications like the MCSA or MCSE. They keep changing what the acronyms mean, but they seem to keep coming back to MCSA and MCSE. We have courses that align with those certifications. Sometimes it's one course matching up with one certification. So for example, the CompTIA A+, our PC hardware and software class lines up with the A+ certification. And our IT fundamentals course lines up with the CompTIA IT fundamentals certification. In other classes, you might have, like for the CCNP, there are 2 classes that you have to go through in order to learn the content for the CCNP. So we have a lot of classes that line up with these industry certifications, and other colleges really throughout the world who are offering classes that line up with these same industry certifications. So it's fairly easy to have transfer between our school and another school. So you can go finish a 4-year degree or even a graduate degree somewhere and transfer some of your credits in because they know that you've covered exactly the same thing. So these industry certifications are exams that you can take. They have usually like a practical simulation component to them, as well as multiple choice questions. You traditionally take them at a testing center. There are testing centers located throughout the world where you can take these certification tests. And you pay a fee, you take your test. If you pass one, or in some cases it's multiple tests to earn the certification, then you get to say that you're certified. And people kind of then understand that you know certain things and have certain skills. The advantage to doing that is it's another way to prove to an employer that you know what you're doing. And you can also a lot of times transfer those industry certifications as credits as well. So if you already have some industry certifications, right, that you recognize some of these and like, oh yeah, I did the CompTIA A+ before, you could actually get credit from Inver Hills. We wouldn't make you retake our class, but you could obtain course credit for certifications that you have. Now, the certification has to be the current certification. So if you did it, 5 or 10 years ago and you haven't kept it up to date, most of the certifications you have to do some continuing education to keep up to date. But if you've kept it up to date, we can give you credit for that. Um, Also, it's a good option if you want to do an accelerated program and get through your courses at Inver Hills faster, or you want to do a class like over the summer that we don't normally offer over the summer. If you want to self-study for the certification that is associated with that class and you pass the certification test, we can give you credit for that, and then you don't have to take that particular class. As I said, you also get high transferability to other colleges when you have certifications, and they're a great thing to put on your resume to get your foot in the door, especially when you're first getting started in an IT career. And then finally, the certification testing process can be expensive, but because we're part of the Cisco Networking Academy and we're actually part of the CompTIA Academy program as well, we can offer students, if you are in one of our courses, you can get a discounted certification testing process, right? So we can give you a discount code that when you go and register and take your certification wherever, at whatever testing center you happen to do it, you can use that to register for the exam, and it'll give you some amount off. The exact amount depends on the particular certification. So that's the deal with certifications. We talk about them usually in all of the courses that line up with a certification. We go through and talk about the whole certification process and how to study for them, etc. So this is my contact information again. My email address and phone number are on here. And I'm more than happy to answer questions individually if you've got questions. You can also stick them in the chat here if you would like, and I'll stick around for a few minutes after we're done just to see if anyone wants to stick around and chat and has specific questions. One last pitch that I always will make for Inver Hills is partially one of the reasons that I came to Inver Hills is because Inver Hills became part of the Cisco Networking Academy program so early. Way back in 1998, we became part of that program, the second year that the program even existed. And as a result, Inver Hills became a international training center. So we actually train Cisco Networking Academy instructors from all over the world. There are a number of training centers that exist now, but Inver Hills is one of the oldest that's still around. And so we do some of that. So if you go to another college that has a Cisco Networking Academy program, especially if it's in the upper Midwest, but it really could be anywhere in the country, chances are pretty good that I might be the person who trained your Cisco Networking Academy instructor. So you are certainly welcome to go there and take the class from them, or you can come to Inver Hills and I can teach you the class directly rather than having it go through someone else who I have trained. So that is kind of the deal with Inver Hills. So it's a great place to be. I've loved being at Inver Hills for the past 11, maybe it's going to be 12, maybe it's 12 years now. So it's been a great time for me. So Amy had a question here about the order to take classes in, and if there's a schedule available so a student knows when and what to register for. Okay, that's actually a really good question, Amy. So the order of classes is pretty important in the IT areas because a lot of the classes will build on previous classes. So the information kind of stacks. So if you want to get done in 2 years, it's pretty important that you're careful about picking which classes you take which semester. Now, Inver Hills has a couple of tools to help you with that. One, I'm going to show you a spreadsheet that we have for the infrastructure degrees, which is mostly where this applies to, that tells you here's what you should take your first semester, here's what you should take your second semester, third semester, and fourth semester if you want to get done in 2 years.
We also have a great staff of counselors and academic advisors who you can make appointments with once you're a student, and they will help you get registered for classes and work on a degree plan that works for you. The other thing that I want to point out is that we have a lot of our students work in the field while they're going to school, finishing their degree. So even students who don't start working, they start as a full-time student, oftentimes will be working at least part-time in IT before they graduate. So as a result, we offer a pretty flexible schedule for classes. All of our classes are available as evening classes or online classes that don't have a specific meeting time or have an evening meeting time. And that's to allow for that flexibility since we have so many students who are working. Our introductory classes, we also have day sections available of. So usually the classes you would take in your first year, you can choose between day or evening or online classes. And in your second year, you're more likely to be taking evening and online classes with perhaps a few day classes. Some liberal arts classes are available both day and evening as well. So that is something to point out. I am going to show you, let me stop sharing my screen here for a second, and I'm going to switch to my web browser and show you one of the tools for this. So I run a website for our department called the ITC Wiki at wiki.ihitc.net. And if you go there, you can go down under this program information section. There's one that says degree course sequencing or program planning. If you click on that, there will be a link to a Google spreadsheet, which you'll want the latest one. And that tells you specifically for, in this case, we're on the network technology and security degree page, which classes we recommend your first semester, your second semester, your third and fourth semester. Or if you're in the IT support specialist, which classes we recommend your first semester, second semester, third semester, and fourth semester. Now, if one of these plans doesn't work for you for some reason, don't despair. If you set up an appointment with one of the advisors, academic advisors or counselors at Inver Hills, they can help you create a customized degree plan, which will also work. But this is just a sample that we created to show people what we would kind of recommend and how we have designed that we have classes available. So anything on there that says fall, those classes are going to be available any fall, and anything on there that says spring, those classes will always be available in any spring semester. So I think I had one more question. I got to bring up my chat again. Are the IT labs easily accessible for computer science students to experiment with, and do they collaborate well with IT students? The answer to that is yes. So technically, we're all part of the same department. So the IT labs on campus are open to anyone who is taking a class in our department. The online remote labs, usually your instructor has to set up an account for you for that. But if you know that you are in a computer science class and there's something in particular you want to work with our remote lab setup, you can definitely contact your instructor, and we don't have any problem setting up access for you as a student. As a general rule, because it's a manual process to create accounts, we don't do it for we do it only for students who are registered in a class where the whole class is using it that semester. But we have an IT lab assistant who can create an account for anyone in the department who wants to use that. So those online labs would be available as well for that. And as far as collaboration goes between computer science and IT students, yes, we have, obviously, as I said, everybody takes the PC hardware and software class together. So you can get to know people who are both in computer science and IT infrastructure degrees in that particular class. We don't have formal collaboration between the two programs so much because for a long time we did not have a dedicated full-time faculty member who just taught computer science classes, but we do now. We brought someone on board last spring to be a full-time computer science instructor for us. And so he's working diligently on increasing the number of offerings that we have in computer science, different classes, and starting to build some collaboration into those classes as well. So that's something we're continuing to work with. Great questions. Anyone else have questions that I can answer? Feel free to drop them into the chat if you do, or you can certainly unmute yourself and ask with a microphone as well.
Yeah, I did have a quick question.
Sure.
This is kind of probably a difficult question. Do you foresee the labs being opened after the summer semester or once the fall semester begins, depending on the COVID situation?
Yeah, so I actually do have a good answer for that. So this year we've been entirely virtual all year. And I believe that last I heard, the plan this summer is to be all virtual as well. However, in the fall, I think that Inver Hills has committed to making something like 10 to 20% of our classes available in person. So all of our classes will still be available online for anyone who wants to do them online. However, we are going to be starting to bring things back to campus as well. So what you'll see, the registration schedule for the fall semester goes active. So current students can begin registering on Monday. So if you look at the schedule of classes for Inver Hills now, let me show you an example here. So if I go back to my web browser and we share this again, if I go, the fastest way for me is current students, and I go class schedule. And we look, for example, so for fall 2021 in ITC, and we search for all courses. What you'll see in this delivery method column is that you'll see some of these say completely online, okay? But then there are some that say like blended hybrid, which this class is like our CCNA 1 class. And that class always is a blended hybrid, meaning that the readings are online and the exams are online, but the labs and lecture take place on campus. So don't worry if it says blended hybrid. In some cases, that's always how that class is offered. And then like some classes like this PC hardware and software class are available just on campus, or here is a completely online section of that same class. Okay, so stuff is coming back. I expect that next spring there will be more that is back as well. So you can actually find out already what classes will be back. But campus-wide, it's in the 10 to 20% range, maybe up to 30% of them.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, great. Austin had another question. Are IT careers associated with the work study program at Inver Hills? Yes, there are a couple of positions available on campus as work study positions where you can do some IT work. Our department actually has one student position to work as an assistant to our college lab assistant, kind of keeping lab equipment up and operational, fixing problems with systems in our labs. And then the campus IT department, right, which is a separate group. They're the people that actually like run the servers and systems for campus, hire a bunch of students in their work study program, mostly who are in the IT programs or computer science programs at Inver Hills. Who do support desk work for the college. So there are a few different work study positions available. Also, if you're a second year student, there is a tutor position, one or two tutor positions available to assist first year students with the problems that they might have working on lab activities and things like that. So there are a few different work study positions available. Good question. Okay. I'm going to stick around for a few minutes in case anyone has any additional questions that they want to ask of me. But that's all that we've got for formal presentation. As I said, if you think of anything that comes up and you have more questions, or you want me to connect you with somebody like the computer science faculty member, John Jerry's, or somebody else at Inver Hills, I'm happy to do that. Feel free to send me an email or call. Truthfully, email is a little bit easier than calling. Probably, if you want me to call you back, just include your phone number in the email message. But thanks everyone for coming to the session today. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, anything that you think of in the future. But we appreciate you coming, and we hope to see you in class this coming fall. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing here, and we're going to